Hello, I'm Peter Bell, and I'm here with Mr.
Hi.
Mark Campbell, CEO of Aton Resources. Hello, Mark.
Hey, Peter. How are you doing?
Wonderful. The first time I think we've had a recorded conversation that we'll publish the audio from.
Okay, great.
If you'd believe it or not, one of the first interviews I ever did in the business was with you.
Is that right?
Yes, indeed.
Wow.
Fall 2016. Um,
Well, that's excellent. Well, you've done a great job, I have to say, of covering us. So I'm very appreciative.
me too. I'm glad that I continue to be involved. This will be a video going out to the company account.
Great.
So maybe to start off, I'd just love to ask, life in Egypt. You're in Cairo right now, I gather, and I wonder what's it like there today?
Well, no, I mean Cairo's. I love Cairo. I've been here for 29 years, so I obviously like it. I mean, Cairo is it's big, dirty, noisy, um, but it's safe. It's enjoyable. The people are wonderful. I live on an island in the middle of the Nile called Zamalek. So having been here all these years, my kids grew up part of their lives here. It's a very, very easy place for me to live, and it's my sort of neighborhood. So I'm here for the duration. Egypt has become now my adopted country, and I'm here.
Well, and I think they stand to benefit a lot from whatever legacy you might create with your years of service. The junior mining business there doesn't have a lot of representatives.
Well, no, I mean, that's absolutely right. I came here in 29 years ago in the drilling business. I mean, I come out of the oil and gas business. I'm from Texas, and so I was in the oil and gas business for many, many years. And in 1995, Samuel Raghi, who ran Sentiment, asked me if I'd get involved. And that was just the early stages of Sentiment's exploration program. And we focused on Sukari. But interestingly enough, they held the concession we're on in those days, Abu Marawat. And so I first saw Abu Marawat in 1995, and I really wasn't. And I carried on with my own business that I had here, which is an oil and gas business. And it wasn't really until 2009 when I was asked to join the board of what was then called Alexander Nubia that I really had sort of more of a focus on the mining business, and here we are today. So it's been an interesting period, to say the least.
And maybe one pointed question too, in regards to the junior mining business here, executives and shareholders.
I am the junior mining business here.
Well,
Me
and
and David Hall at Paddy Stratix. I mean, we are the mining business here. I wouldn't say the mining business. We're the exploration business here. There is only one mining business here, and that is Sentiment.
and the word business again, to hear you say that, a lot of the junior mining stock promotions, it's very important to have an executive who has a very large, equity stake in a speculative company like that. For some, there seems to be some differences between Aton and the usual Vancouver stock promotion companies. Your and I'd wonder, just to ask you about your
Well,
investment.
I'm not in the, as I've said many times, I am not in the promotion business. this may be a screwy business, but it is a business. And, I don't subscribe to this idea that, I'm out there trying to promote something. I mean, I will offer people what I have, which is I have the best exploration team going. I have some great geology, and the economics, well, I'm getting those. So, at the end of the day is that I have one job, and as I see it, one job only, and that is to benefit my shareholders. The thing is that I have a very probably different view than a lot of people. I come out of the drilling business. So if Shell gives me a well to drill and it's got complications, Shell doesn't want me to tell them that I can't figure it out. They just want me to figure it out. The same with my shareholders. They're not interested in my issues. All they want is to know at the end of the day that I've figured them out so that they make money out of it. Now, can I guarantee the geology? Can I guarantee, anything? No, I can't, because I left my crystal ball in my other coat. But the point is that I've got all the makings of something that has a lot of potential. And my job is to ensure that I make the most out of that potential on behalf of the people who are actually spending their money to let me do it.
Yeah. Well, and about this question with executive share ownership, there's been some research out, and McEwen's banging the drum about executives that own large fractions of their company. I wonder, do you wish you owned
Yeah,
more
I
share?
don't buy into that. I think that's a load of nonsense. At the end of the day is that, people own a lot of shares, it seems to me, in the junior mining business so they could trade the hell out of it. At the end of the day, if somebody wants to give me a bonus or whatever it is, because I've done a good job, I leave that to my shareholders and, my board. I don't, my job is not to focus on making money for myself. My job is to focus to make money on behalf of my shareholders. And when I lose sight of that, they should cut me off at the knees.
Yep. Well, I was scrolling through the SETI filings recently and looking at the transactions, and not a lot of sales.
No, because the people believe, once you see it, once you understand it, I got 738 square kilometers of land.
Yep.
The fact of the matter is that I've got 17, legitimate exploration targets. The one that leads is Rod Ruin, but Abogaharish could also be very interesting. I mean,
Yeah.
and there are, many others. So
there's many
as
others.
a portfolio,
Yeah.
as a district play, I've got a lot, and I'm a first mover here. So, I'm the furthest along. I've got a development plan for Hamama. The thing is that now we're going to see a change in all the terms and conditions. I want to see what the economics of those new and improved new and improved, amendments are going to be.
Yep, certainly. And the vision that you have, you've been able to rally support for it. The list of people involved in the company is pretty impressive. Maybe I'd ask specifically about Mr. Tonavac.
Well, I mean, these are, they are, I have an excellent board of directors. Okay. These guys don't get paid much of anything. And, they're active. They don't sit there and wait for directors' dinners. If they want a director's dinners, I'll take them to Dairy Queen. The fact of the matter is that they are very active and they work. And Pano was brought in originally by Bill Koutouris, who had been at Endeavor for many years, and they are very successful. They're very supportive. They were very successful, and I think that their support has been absolutely paramount in our success over the last several years.
Certainly. And they continue to be supportive. Just yesterday, news
Well,
of
they believe that because they believe in what we're doing.
yeah,
People look at this transaction that we just did. We are a junior mining company. We are always starved for cash. I needed to raise some money. I didn't want to go out there and do a placement at a low share price. I borrowed some money off of them. I had no idea whether they were going to exercise their warrants in December or not.
yeah,
I didn't want to take too much money on, which is why I only left it at $1 million. And they exercised their warrants because they felt that it was the right thing to do. But I had no idea that they were going to back in November when I did that. They're very supportive and all the rest of it. They're not no damn charity, though.
yeah.
And if the stock had been at 3 cents, they may not have done it. So,
And if you hadn't have raised the money in November, they might not have done it.
There wasn't sort of some sort of master plan or any sort of,
No.
This wasn't, some sort of wild financial engineering here. I mean, it was simply I needed some money and to carry me into the new year, and I took the option of borrowing it. It turned out that they were very happy with our plan and where we are and everything else, and so they exercised their options. So did other people. So it wasn't just them; they were just the biggest one.
And many, many more questions to all that, but
ask away.
Yeah. Well, but I would just start by pointing out something that occurred to me as well, which is that great to have that money repaid quickly. I don't know if any credit ratings, talking about development plans at Hamama, maybe developing some credit rating for the company is a good thing. I don't know if a private loan like that really counts. Depends what kind of private debt markets you start looking to. Yeah. But I would point out, and in terms of the Howe Street equity side of the company, the entity that lent you that money in November there, they got a bunch more warrants, and
they took a risk, didn't they?
Well, and they got a risk. 18 million warrants.
At the end of the day, is that nobody does anything for nothing, and they took a risk, and junior mining is a risky business. It's a business. It's a screwy business, but it's a business. And at the end of the day side is that you're asking people to. On the credit side, that's even worse. We don't have any revenue.
And the fact that this was able to all happen. At the end
of the day, I mean, where did you, unless we raise more money, where do you think that money's coming from?
And I would just point out that again, the strong hand, the cornerstone investor, the OU Moonrider, I believe, whichever entity it is that has that 18 million in warrants, 18 million new shares and warrants, has the ability now, to fund at 5.5 cents. That's almost $1 million again that could be funded into the company from that warrant package, which is again very, very important to give Aton access to capital.
They have stood by it. They have stood by us through thick and thin, and they've stood by us because we approach this in a way that is very organized. I mean, we don't. This isn't. We don't go just. People may think I'm some wild West Texas who goes wahoo and off we go, but that's not the case. The case is that our guys are very good at what they do. and they back our exploration guys. They back our exploration plan. They understand the risks, and they understand the upside potential if we get it right. And so far, touch wood, at Rod Ruin, we're getting it right. And it's very complex geology. And yet we have seemingly been able to actually work out what that is. And it's what we've said it is, a large mineralized area with good geology, good results, and some high-grade shoots in there.
It's wonderful. And again, another thing that I'd point out about that is you may have established something of a discovery model there, and various layers of information that you've been able to use in the identification stage of Rod Ruin as a target area. That might apply broadly in these underexplored areas in Egypt.
It may do. I mean, the fact of the matter is that you talk about Egypt in general, it's very underexplored. There is very little information. And, we spend half our time working on how to find an economic deposit and half our time trying to work out what the geology is that we work in. Because unlike Canada or South Africa or anywhere else really in the world that has established mining districts, we don't have the data. And so we have to, we figure this out as we go along. I suspect that our model, and I'd have to ask Javier, but I mean, changes twice a day, depending on what we see. And that's a factor in what we do. But, we understand that. We know how to deal with that. And so that's, for an explorationist, it's exciting stuff. For shareholders, it's worrying stuff because it's changing. But,
yes.
By and large, our model in general fits what we've been saying.
Yeah, it's wonderful. I'm with you, Mark. Thank you.
That we have a large mineralized area with, good grades and high grade shoots. I mean, there's not
if I can
much more
interrupt you
could say
too,
about that.
I've listened to some of the video recording with Tim Neal, one of the geologists, kind of speaking to and someone from Egypt, and he was fumbling for words, talking about the fact that there's slate there at surface that's mineralized, a free running slate, I think he said, and just how unusual that is at Rod Ruin.
It's hugely unusual.
That's free running scree. That's free running scree.
Wonderful.
Slate. I mean, for slate, you put it in oil and gas context, you're talking about, looking at shale.
Yeah. And another thing.
Look, I mean, our geology, within 738 square kilometers that we have, our geology differs greatly.
Yeah.
I mean, we have some, areas which are, without a doubt, replacement, intrusive related deposits. We have, Abu Gharish is orogenic, structurally controlled.
Yeah.
And then we have these odd sort of areas of sort of an epithermal VMS hybrid. We've got various geology within this. If you look at Abu Gharish, for example, we have an old British tungsten mine, high-grade tungsten mine. Interestingly enough, is a lot of what we have associated with Abu Gharish is actually tungsten related.
And again, in the recordings of field recordings of Rod Ruin, there's mention of the fact that aerial geophysics doesn't work to detect didn't work to detect rod ruin particularly well. Um, I don't know exactly how true of a statement
No,
that
no, I'll
is.
tell you what that was. That's absolutely right. They were picking up carbonate targets. And we went and looked at a lot of these carbonate targets. And in actual fact, Rod Ruin was picked up months, like 6 months or more before. We just, it's just one of those usual carbonate targets. The thing about Rod Ruin was that based upon it being identified as a carbonate target, and our GIS guy, Jim Yates, was looking on, of all things, Google Earth, going over these things. And he worked out that these paths that were going up that hill, that mountain, seemed to be human as opposed to animal. And so the story of Rod Ruin is a fascinating one because it combines both archaeology and geology. We have an area which is well known, well documented, called Eridaya, and it is an ancient processing area, and it's big. And it most likely was last used in the early Arab period because you could tell by washing tables. And washing tables were a technology that was brought in during that period. And when we went there, we found tailings dumps that were running 20 grams plus. And we were trying to figure out where there was. So we went and trenched around the area, and there was absolutely nothing. And we couldn't figure out where this stuff was coming from. And when he identified, so in early December of last year,
Yeah.
the boys said, well, we're about to leave. We don't have much to do. We'll go up there and see. It's very rugged, very difficult terrain. So they hiked up there. And when they got to the top of it, it was one of those, oh my God moments, because they realized that there were all these, ancient workings. And since then, we have found that these, what we thought were, small ancient works, are absolutely the whole hill, and I suspect we'll find the same with the North Ridge as well, are absolutely honeycombed with ancient workings. And there must have been thousands of people working over hundreds of years on this area, taking out the gold. And, that's why, we see these high-grade chutes within all this sort of regular mineralized area. And, it is quite extraordinary. And we're almost absolutely certain that we haven't been up there. Nobody's been up there in 1,600 years.
Yeah.
And the fact of the matter is that the Bedouin knew about the mountain of gold. And Clem and Clem, who were a husband and wife, one was a geologist, the other was an archaeologist, who wrote the definitive work on the Eastern Desert gold deposits, never found it. They talked about it, and they talked about this lost mountain of gold. They were at Eridaya, and yet only 3 kilometers away was what they were talking about.
Yeah, amazing. And the geophysics, and on the geophysics, it just looked up like another boring.
Well, it wasn't geophysics. It was looking from satellite imagery.
Yeah.
And it is carbonate. I mean, there's no doubt about it. It's carbonate. It shows up as carbonate. It's carbonate. But a lot of the carbonate we have is barren.
Yeah.
And we looked at a lot of it, and it was barren. We went up there perfunctory.
Yeah.
As one of those areas we have to look at, and there you go.
Eridaya, what a legendary spot, and to hear about washing tables in the desert.
Sure.
Amazing.
Absolutely. But I mean, that's what makes Egypt so prospective. You know,
Yeah.
you have all
Yeah.
these leads that there are. That doesn't mean that there aren't other areas which contain gold that nobody's ever looked at. Certainly there are. But it means that it's a place that is bearing of minerals.
And
We have a lot of zinc. There are areas that have a lot of copper. The potential for Egypt is that it's underexplored.
yeah. Well, and
It's
I've
a
spent
it's an absolute geological Disneyland.
yeah. Yeah. I've come to appreciate that more and more, Mark. I remember when you first said that and I had a laugh. Um, and then the hours spent looking at that regional map or project level map from the company there. And the ones where you'd have the different zones kind of interpreted to the VMS stuff here and the orogenic or all these different things kind of swirling together in kind of the center of the property, even.
But
Um,
you look at what ANBAT, which is what Tanning Stratix has. That's very exciting. That is intrusive related gold bearing mineralization. I mean, they have an exciting area.
yeah.
I mean, you can't take that away. And so, the fact of the matter is that, that is a huge opportunity right there. So they are way in the south. We're much further north.
Yep.
And that just gives you the idea that you got an exciting deposit down in the south, and you got an exciting deposit up in the north. What is with the rest? Look at Sukari. That's a world-class mine.
Yeah.
It's the
It's amazing.
fact that nobody has come here for years and years and, explored or done any serious work here.
Yep. No, it's inspiring. And to hear mention of the Sinai Peninsula, that to me is even more uh, on another
Well, the
level.
Sinai is interesting because it's historically copper rich.
And the world needs copper. There's a lot of talk in markets about a large deficit and a potentially growing one.
I agree, and that's why I keep, beating the hell out of my exploration team because I want a copper mine.
Well, I'm sure
That's
that
their
there's
job is to find me a copper mine. So,
well, if they simplify the land staking in Egypt, there could be an absolute rush.
well, I mean, I think that is, if you ask me, the geology is the geology. But if you ask me what is the most tectonic shift in this whole issue of Egypt, it is without a doubt President Sisi and Tariq Mullah's vision of building a mining industry. The first time, I've been talking about this for, a quarter of a century, and I might have well been talking to myself. The fact of the matter is that we have gone in the past year from 0 to 100 in less than 5 seconds by Egyptian standards. I mean, the government has come out and made it very clear. And they actually, I have to keep up with them. Usually I'm trying to get them to move faster, but now they're moving so fast. It's unbelievable. And I've been on the Energy Committee at the American Chamber of Commerce. Now, the American Chamber of Commerce is important because they are the most powerful lobbying body for business in Egypt. And they carry a lot of weight. And they're very particular about what they support. And the Energy Committee, I represented mining. And, so there was me, a junior mining company, and ExxonMobil, BP, Shell, Schlumberger, and you felt slightly dwarfed by all of this.
Yep.
And Egypt has the second oldest oil and gas industry after the United States. So Shell, BP, all these people, ExxonMobil, they all at some point or another were built on the back of Egypt. And but we finally have created our own Mineral Exploration and Development Committee,
Yep.
and with the full support of the American Chamber. And we met as an industry. That includes people that do phosphate and other things, as opposed to precious and base metals, with the minister on Sunday. And he was absolutely engaged. He was absolutely on side with, he wants to build an industry here. He wants to make it attractive. He understands that the first step is to be able to attract exploration companies and juniors. He understands the long-term make. I was absolutely amazed. I came out of that meeting, I had to pinch myself. Because it was tremendous. And so I think the last part of, our story, which is excellent exploration team, the best in the world, excellent geology. The last part of it was good economics, and that we're going to get.